Hello, Paul. Can you hear me? Um, can you hear me? Dave,
Yeah, land.
can you hear me now?
Yep.
Paul, can you
And
hear me?
so I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Good.
And
Great.
Nancy, very good to see you. Got to get the audio on.
You're muted, Nancy.
Yeah, she's working on it. So, do you sometimes look at this screen and think it's the magic box?
It is the magic box.
We're looking at the magic box. Okay, so I'm seeing that we have various of our committee joining this circle. Here's Ellen,
Excellent.
there's Austin, there's Nancy. Nancy, can you get your audio on? And then there's Dave. Dave, have you been Willie since childhood, or is that a recent thing?
In childhood.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyone else for nickname?
Maybe it
I
was really Wiley.
Wiley. That's right, Wiley. Well, I was Skip.
Oh,
Who
really?
knows? Who knows why?
Actually, I was Wild Willie when I grew up.
Wild Willie. Oh, okay.
All right, there you go.
Great. Well, what a good start to our meeting. So I'm Lynn Spencer. I'm Chairman of Community Preservation for the town of Nahant and happy to call this meeting to order. With me are Nancy Catalmo representing Open Space and Recreation, Dave Wilson, the Housing Authority, Austin Antrim, Ellen Goldberg, and Paul Spurn, members at large. And I am here on behalf of, well, through as a designate for the Historical Commission. I am not seeing anyone else joining us right now. Come on, what are they thinking? This could be the most exciting thing going on in Nahant tonight.
We got a lot of competition.
Yeah, really. Okay. Well, first of all, Nancy, I want to make sure you get on audio so we can hear you. There's something going on. Now it's working.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes, we want to make sure you're here. So let's do the first thing, which is actually to review the minutes, courtesy of Nancy, and minutes that are very, very clear and expressive. So really appreciate that, Nancy. I only saw one thing, which I actually failed to catch earlier. So I'll start by saying the one edit that I would suggest making is that after we had a bit of a back and forth about moving this meeting, we did move it from the 17th to the 19th.
Okay, I misunderstood and thought we were going to have two meetings, but I would correct those minutes.
Yeah, just if we can say it was the 19th. Any other edits or corrections?
I'm just reviewing them now real quick.
Sure, just take a moment. Just take a moment for that.
Lynn, every once in a while your head disappears.
That's because I go over here and look at
It's a
something else.
little disconcerting.
Oh, sorry.
It's a little disconcerting, yeah.
Okay.
It's the magic box, Paul.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Nancy.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
is. Right. It is,
Appreciate
yeah.
that. Okay, anyone else? Comments on the minutes?
Lost them. Right.
Mhm.
What's the date on these minutes that we're looking at tonight?
They
The
were in the
10th?
email I sent on Monday.
Right, but the date of the
the
meeting was
10th.
the 10th, right? Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Well, I seem to have lost them. Okay, sorry. I don't know where they went.
Well,
Oh, Lord. Oh, God.
I'm sending them to you again.
No, I have them in the email, but I filed
Oh.
them in the wrong place. Dope. All right, let's try it again.
I'm soon going to be declaring a moratorium on searching for minutes and just looking for an approval of the minutes.
Right,
I hope
good
that's
thought.
not being recorded.
Oh, you bet it has.
Oh, stop.
Everything's recorded.
Yeah. Okay.
I just have two small corrections.
Good.
Under other attendees, there should be an A at the last name of Tony's, sorry, at the end of Tony's last name.
Okay.
And then the second correction, it mentions the 100th anniversary of the historic fire, which began on Bailey's Hill. That should be near Bailey's Hill. Didn't actually start on Bailey's Hill.
Where did it start precisely? Do you know?
Yes, in a building on Bayview Ave that runs parallel with Castle Road.
Yeah.
And then the wind blew it towards Bailey's Hill
I see.
and towards your house.
I know. How did my house survive?
I don't know. Yeah.
It's
Right.
when you look at the photographs, it's like the last one. Oh, there's a couple by it. But... Okay. All right, near Bailey's Hill. I see that.
And after that, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Dave. All in favor? Paul,
Aye.
Ellen, Austin,
Aye.
Dave,
I,
Nancy.
Sec, I pending changes mentioned.
Yep. And chair votes aye with appreciation to Nancy for these wonderful minutes. Nancy, I think I have these electronically, so if it'd be easier, I could make the corrections and send them to town hall.
Thank you.
Okay, I will do that. Now, who would like to take the minutes for tonight?
I can take them tonight.
Great. Paul, are you able to put on the screen the grant summary that I sent out on Monday?
I just think I set it up. Let's see.
Okay, great. That's good because that's kind of where we want to go, is start plunging into that wonderful exercise.
So first I have to open it up. Okay, now it's opening. And then I have to share my screen. So that means I have to uncover the Zoom, which is hard to find. Wait a minute, I'm going to do it this way. Ellen, I thought I was going to talk to you about my deficiencies in my system and that you would take charge of this tonight. So I apologize to the rest of the committee. I had no right to assume that.
Did you ask me?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
I just figured I
But
was
you-
gonna at some point, never
Did
happened.
I-
All right.
Did I
let's
say
see.
there's a magic box And then we want mind
And then
transfers
there's,
too.
right, and then there's magic
I'm like,
magical
what,
thinking.
did I miss a request? I didn't think I.
No, and then there's magical thinking.
Magical
Um,
thinking. That's the right way of putting it.
All right, so I think this is what I want. No, I
Yes.
want screen. That's what I want. I want the screen.
I think you're just stalling and you want me to offer.
No,
I
no,
think
no,
That's
no, no.
exactly what he's doing. That's
Okay,
not
now.
it.
Oh, this isn't it.
No,
Oh,
that's
dear.
that's a nice thing to have, but though that's not it.
Oh, you want the, all right, wait a minute. Maybe I didn't
I
put the
wanted the
right
grant
thing up.
summary.
Hold on, wait a minute. You want the grid, the grant grid.
Yes.
All right, wait a minute. It's just gonna take another moment. Why is this not coming up? Where is it hiding?
Well, it's so you see it,
CPC grant summary.
right, with mark 2, 2, 3, your cursor's on
Right,
it.
that's it. Okay, it's
Yeah.
on 219. Okay, it should come up now.
Yeah, okay. Other of us might already have that on a screen or on their desk, but I would like the public to be able to see this if they want to.
Okay. Do you want
Okay,
me
if
to?
you could scroll to the top, please.
Okay,
Okay, so what you're seeing on the screen is the listing of the grant applications with the column shown in red having the full amounts requested. With this, and we can just sort of run through these. So we have the Nahant Preservation Trust application for the life-saving station roof. They've requested $150,000. They are proposing to match that with $30,000 for a total project cost of $180,000. Any reactions or thoughts as you have reflected on this grant application?
I think I'm leaning towards supporting it, but I would like to see an actual quote if they can produce one.
Mhm.
Lynn, could you go over the numbers with us again? This is for a slate roof, is that correct?
No, it's for a wood shingle roof.
Oh, that's right. Of course, wood shingle roof. Go ahead.
And the estimate was generated in conversations with Gerardo Doherty, who's been working on that building on and off for a number of years. As a point of background, when the town acquired the building in 1999, one of the first things that was done was to replace a leaking asphalt shingle roof with a wood shingle roof, which was funded with a $100,000 grant that I think was quite honestly an earmark. Everyone familiar with that expression? And this was done under public bidding because at that point the town was responsible for the building exclusively. So the roof has been patched over time. Those of you who have taken a look at it can see that it's kind of showing a lot of organic growth, which in that very vulnerable location, I think is typical. I think what the Nahant Preservation Trust was proposing was to go for a wood shingle roof that is pre-dipped. So it's actually got a little bit more longevity because it's pre-dipped, and it could be pre-dipped and be a red roof, which would be consistent with the practice that was taken up by the Coast Guard when they acquired the building around 1920. They painted all their buildings white with red roofs, so they'd be very recognizable. Why do I know all this? Because I've worked on the historical studies related to it.
Did they have trouble distinguishing them from Howard Johnson's?
Something like that, orange roof, red roof. Yep. I think the points that were raised in the discussion about this 2 Mondays ago or 2 meetings ago were concerns about the longevity of the roof and whether there were alternatives. You touched on one, Paul, which is slate, but that is not how that roof was framed or ever
Right,
could take
right.
it.
And that would be a much greater expense anyway, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would, but it'd be a longer lived roof for sure. But I think that we're kind of, we've got a National Register property here with a preservation restriction on it. So to the extent that is possible, the preferred option is to use, authentic historic materials.
Lynn,
Apart,
can I ask
Yep.
you a question? You said that the estimate was 150,000,
180 actually.
100, but you said, but then the 30 was going to be taken off that.
No, it's being added to it. So it's $150,000 request plus $30,000 being provided as match by the trust. I might have misspoken the total cost. The total cost is 180.
Okay,
Can you go back up, Paul? Because it's scrolled down.
It did?
Yep, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there we go. One thing that I will add, because I had text from Emily Potts earlier today, they are planning to apply for a Massachusetts Preservation Projects Fund grant. So that could actually reduce the amount of what they need from the community preservation funding.
Where the 30,000 is coming from the Preservation Trust, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, so that will, the amount requested will be reduced by whatever they are able to win from the state historic grant. Is that right?
Right. Right. The trick with this is
Right.
this. The typical MPPF grant is around $50,000.
Okay.
So it could reduce the draw on the CPA funding to $100,000,
Mm-hmm.
which would be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they won't know about that grant until mid-June.
Right.
So a cautious thing is to keep the amount at 150. And if they actually get the grant, then we would actually do the old claw back into the fund of the balance that they don't need.
Right.
That's one way of thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
do you know the likelihood that they will be granted the grant?
I think it'd be pretty good, Nancy, because it's an iconic structure, et cetera, et cetera. The last grant we got from Mass Historical was for the public library a few years ago. So I think it's in a pretty good position, but not guaranteed for sure.
Thank you.
Lynn, how many of these Coast Guard stations are extant in Massachusetts? Any idea?
Off the top of my head, I can't tell you exactly, but I can on my fingers count 5 that I know right away.
Okay. Are they all more or less equivalent to this and how they look and what they meant?
No, actually, this one was unique. Many of the life-saving stations were, they had one design and they used it in different locations. Okay. But this one was unique because the boats were able to exit from both sides of the building because they could exit on what we now see as Nahant Road so they can
Yep.
get over to the bay on the other side.
Right. Sure.
So it is considered a unique design.
So Lynn, when the commission took it over, I understood there was one more just like this in California. There was only 2 of these made in the United
That
States.
had exits on both sides? Oh,
Yes.
really? Oh, well, you might be very right about that. There's a book that was written by a guy whose name I will remember in a minute, who is the historian that did the report that we have in the Historical Society files. What was his name? But anyway, yes, that'd be interesting. And of course, there were hundreds of these life-saving stations throughout the country, including the Great Lakes,
Oh, sure.
you
Yeah.
know, Chesapeake Bay, all kinds of places.
Lynn, this is a long shot, but do you happen to know if there's a record of how many squares of shingles it took to shingle the roof the last time it was done?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Why?
He wants to do a cost estimate. That's why.
Yes, I was curious.
You know what I could suggest, because we were talking about this. All right, full disclosure, my office is going to do some volunteer services with the Nahant Preservation Trust for this application. And I was just talking with my colleague Doug to say, we have all kinds of plans, but we don't have a roof plan. So Austin, what we probably will do is go to what's called Eagle View and buy a roof plan. The satellite does a picture and actually will give us the slopes as well as the coverage. So I
Wow.
think that's a really good way of just cross-checking this cost estimate.
Lynn, I'm very glad that you specified that your firm is cooperating with the trust on a volunteer basis, so that somebody doesn't stumble on documents going back and forth and wonder how that happened. Excuse me, with you sitting on the board deciding whether the grant is to go to the benefit of the trust. So thank you very much for pointing that out.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm in sort of all kinds of trouble because I also sit on the building committee of the public library. So we've also talked about that as well.
Right, right. Okay, good enough. Good enough.
But there would be no conflict of interest if you're in a volunteer position. You're
That's
not
right.
benefiting.
No, if anything, she'd benefit if the grant gets turned down. She'd have less less than a 20-hour day for, who knows, a couple of days that week.
Yeah, that would be good. But it'd be one of these things where it's a colleague in my office, my name isn't on it, but yes, certainly the firm's name is on it.
Yeah.
Any other comments or thoughts about this application?
I
So-
do have a, but, okay,
I'm
ahead.
sorry, it was just, so you need, does a drone do this pictures that you need?
Actually, the satellite, Nancy, does it.
Really?
So, yeah,
Wow.
it's you can go online and look at it. It's a company called Eagle View. We use it all the time. And
Oh
for
my gosh.
$75, we get a really good roof plan. And then we work with that as a drawing. So it's much better than a drone, because a drone just kind of flies around. Eagle View is way up here and they go down.
Amazing.
It's amazing.
I have a drone. If anybody wants a picture of a roof, I have fun with my drone.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not LiDAR and satellite. My question is, let's assume the money all works out and we decide we want to support it. When we write this up for the town meeting, do we include information about the fact that they've also applied for an extra grant, but due to timing, or do you know what I mean? Do we include that information to give everybody knowledge of that?
Yes.
Okay.
And we've done that in the past on both the public library and the Elegant Chapel.
Thanks.
So in years past, at this point in the discussion, you used to say, Lynn, well, is it true that we are favorably disposed to this? And without dissenting comments from everybody else, we moved on to the next one. What do you think?
I think that's a great point. Paul just said it. Are we favorably disposed?
Yes.
Because
Yeah, I think so.
we're gonna
This is
be
not a
returning to
vote.
this.
This is just like a,
Yeah.
we all think that this is worth it, and then we have to figure out the money and prioritize, right?
Right.
Exactly, exactly, Ellen, exactly. So let's go on to the Housing Authority's application to replace 4 roofs at their
Mhm.
property on Spring Road.
Do we all need to say we're favorably or unfavorable disposed?
Well, all right. Are you favorably disposed?
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ellen,
I was gonna be cute and do an emoticon, but yes.
okay. Austin,
You
Yes.
already said yes.
okay, and then Dave, I keep wanting to call you Willie. Dave?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Nancy, thanks for keeping us on the straight and narrow. Let's go on to the Housing Authority. We've got 4 roofs at their properties, at their 4 buildings on Spring Road. Asphalt shingles, $8,000 a piece with a, architect's fee to manage their project for them, which brings it to $40,000.
I can't think of anything to question here.
I mean, compared to the life-saving roof, I'm just like, is it possible that this is gonna be $40,000? That's just like,
It is
But it-
possible,
okay,
but they're simple roofs. The life-saving station's a complicated roof structure, including that tower. These
okay.
are simple gable roofs. They're asphalt shingles. They'll last, maybe 30
25
years.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yep.
I think the question is this considered a, maintenance versus a, a more longer term capital kind of major improvement? And that's always an issue with this kind of thing.
Is there any different rules to housing requests compared to historical buildings?
Honestly, Nancy, not that I know of.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
Begging that question, I feel compelled, given the people living in this underneath these roofs, and the fact that we haven't, compared to other things, haven't given that much money to housing over the years.
Yeah.
That I remember.
Yeah, that I think you've got a point there.
I mean, with this kind of thing, we've always had this kind of discussion. We've always had the same question when with roofs or brickwork or, whatever. Is it maintenance or is it
Right.
something else? So I don't know that we could apply a separate rule here. And I agree that, housing hasn't, we've had a generous housing reserve on deck for a while because we
Yeah.
haven't had an opportunity to use it. So I am favorably inclined for this.
Okay. Anyone else? Comments?
I agree. I'm also favorably inclined for this one. I think bundling it together and saving multiple architect fees makes sense. And I do think it is more of a capital issue than maintenance.
I agree.
Dave?
No, I agree, because just one thing, that one of them is leaking pretty good right now, so
Yeah, we want to get at it.
we want to get at it, and because they're all about the same age,
May I ask a question on that score? Not that it has anything to do with our deliberations. But can't the town come up with some money and get that thing fixed? Or at least start the first roof with the anticipation that we're gonna get the rest of them done? I mean, it's a shame to force people to live under those circumstances.
Well, the maintenance man has called someone in to make a temporary repair.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
We're hoping that we can do all 4 roofs That the town won't come in and help. You
Yeah.
know, this is housing authority property.
It's a totally different jurisdiction, Paul.
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
I think I heard favorably inclined from the
yeah,
group.
yes, yeah, you did.
Okay, good. So let's go on to the next one, which are the 2 flagpoles for Veterans Park. Anyone?
What is the anticipated lifespan of these $4,600 flagpoles?
Who knows? I have no idea.
I asked that question and didn't get an answer.
Yeah,
That's right.
what
There
I
wasn't a
thought.
good answer. There wasn't really a good answer.
Because I think
They're
there
al-
were
they're
questions
aluminum.
about
They're
materials.
aluminum. Yeah, they were aluminum flagpoles. There was a conversation about, you know, the how. Help me, Austin. The Hauser arrangement.
Halyard.
Halyard, yeah.
Yeah.
Halyard arrangement.
I think
Internal
generally
or
they do
external.
last a while.
Yeah, they do. I mean,
So,
you see the 7 flagpoles that are there now, and they've been there. How long, Dave? Do you happen to remember when they went in?
late mid-80s, and those are fiberglass poles.
Oh, are
Yeah.
they fiberglass? Oh, okay,
They're fiberglass.
which probably makes a lot more sense in our environment.
Yeah, we've had no problem with them, you know.
Yeah.
Should we encourage them to look at fiberglass instead, Dave?
I can't. I shouldn't be quoted on what they're planning to use. Quite honestly, I can't. I'll look at the
I thought
application.
these were fiberglass ones they recommended,
Okay.
All right.
you know. Austin might know. Didn't you just buy one, Austin, a year ago, a couple of years ago?
I didn't, and I think Dana did cover this
Yeah,
when he spoke at the meeting, but I just can't recall exactly. But I am in favor of supporting this pending financials.
I wonder if she's coming back.
If Dana's coming back,
No,
No,
Lynn Spencer left.
oh, where'd she go?
She didn't have to say, she just said she left.
I see. Okay. Well, in the meantime, here's the flagpole proposal. And I'm not sure if the information is in here. No, not yet. So, Ellen, this is this point where I become a cropper here. I can't open up the proposal. Maybe you could do that. You said you were able to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, I had to disable, there was the way these are built, there's a script in my virus, which I suspect that it's happening to you as well. It's the
Yeah.
software is blocking the script
Yeah.
from downloading and from opening. So once I disabled that script, the only question is, I disabled it, but I don't think I disabled it permanently. Like I disabled it so I could get the stuff. So
Oh, yeah.
I might have to try it again. But I can,
Right.
I can try and do that. Let me.
In the meantime, I'll text Lynn and see what's going on.
Right. Let me go into my folder and see if I can do that quickly. Flag poles for Veteran Park. So there it is. And let's see if I'm able to dispose. I have the document. Let me see if I can open the link. Otherwise, I might have to, hey, I did it.
Lynn is back.
Oh, good.
We are not on a captainless ship.
So I have the Liberty flagpoles thing. This was the attachment.
Uh-huh.
You want me
Do
to?
I have to drop out to let you share?
I mean, if that's what.
Or why don't you just look at it and see if you can get the information?
Yeah,
Okay,
just tell us.
What's the question? Oh, yeah, I just
What's the
downloaded it.
material?
Oh, yeah, let's see, what is the material? Fiberglass.
Okay.
All
And
right,
they're
there you go.
53, so yeah, they're 5,300 a piece. But then is there a discount or something? Cause I thought, oh no, it's there's other, right, this is, yeah, fiberglass, has 125-mile-an-hour wind rating, wow. That's cool.
Okay, so unfortunately, I can't actually, my office internet or whatever is not working, so I'm on a phone. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we can.
You
Okay.
could, Lynn, if you, I mean, you could also, if you wanted to use your phone as a hotspot, that might help you get back online. But phone is
I'm on
fine.
I'm on this meeting on my phone.
This is fine. I
Okay.
have to do it like this because I've got this on my other, I've got the chart on my screen, so I don't really need to see it.
Mhm.
So are we favorably inclined to the $9,243 for these two flagpoles?
I am.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we are.
Okay, great. Now let's get down to the one that is actually interesting and challenging, and that is the Nahant Public Library.
Now,
Mm.
I'm having trouble getting, sharing my screen with you folks. I don't,
we're seeing your screen.
oh, wait a minute. You're seeing my screen, but
Yep.
I can't open.
That's
Oh, wait
because
a minute.
you have
That's
to,
why.
you have
That's it.
to,
I see it. I see it. I see it.
yeah. Now, did you click allow there or, and what happens when you clicked allow?
Nothing.
Did
It
it go into
opens
your
up
downloads?
it opens up another browser and doesn't. Oh, well, tonight it opened it, but we're not gonna fiddle
I
with
know,
that
but
now.
so just check and see if it's in your downloads, Paul, later.
Okay, will do.
Because that's where, if it's opening and
That's where it would go.
it
Okay.
might be there, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, can you see my screen now and ready to roll?
Yes.
Good.
Yep. So just to remind you, we came up with the idea of bonding $350,000 to meet the library's needs. Right?
We talked about that. Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. Subsequently, now I'm going to tip my hat a little bit, or my head a little bit, and put my building committee hat on for the public library, where I serve on that committee with Mark Cullinan and Robin DiStefano. Reporting in from time to time or being in touch from time to time with the three trustees, Ann Spurn, Ann Bromer, and Linda Jenkins, working with Richard Smith, the architect. So a little bit of background The three trustees, led by Ann Spurn, have been in touch with Tony Barletta and and the Board of Selectmen individually, not as a group, to discuss needs beyond the building envelope needs for the library, namely a concern about the need to replace the knob and tube wiring that is throughout that building with wiring that is up to today's code for like this, safety of the building and its occupants, as well as providing fire suppression, a sprinkler system, and related fire detection work. They had been talking with the town about securing approximately $377,000 from the town for those activities. We have understood from Tony that the town, despite their best hopes, does not have the available free cash to cover that amount. And a discussion began to sort of develop with the possibility of the town providing $200,000 towards that, outstanding need. And possibly the rest of it's being folded into a increased bond amount from community preservation. Is that
Can
clear?
I,
as
can
mud?
I, can
Is that
can I ask
clear
a
as mud?
question?
Is that
No,
clear?
it's very clear, but the only one element, and that is the town has been asked to provide 370,000 or thereabouts.
Right.
They think they might have 200,000 in cash.
That's right.
That leaves a balance uncovered of 170,000 or thereabouts.
That's right.
And you were saying that there's a prospect of combining it with the money that the library has come to the CPC for. Okay.
That's right. Yes.
But the question is, who is going to be responsible for the 170? Is the
Well,
town going to contribute to the payments to
No.
that extent?
No, I hadn't finished, but I'm glad you asked it that way. No, this would be wound into the $350,000 bond, raising it to just over 520,000. For simplicity's sake, I've asked for what does it mean to bond $500,000? No, the town does not have the money for that now. In the future, namely, it is hoped for next year, there would be more free cash available. Why? Because of the sale of the Coast Guard housing lots on whatever road that is. What is that road? Castle Road? Well, Goddard and so on in my neighborhood.
Drive.
Yeah. Yeah. I never memorized the roads of Nahant. I just know how to get there. So Tony's feeling there's going to be more money next year because with the lots that they've sold so far, they have actually paid back the acquisition amount plus funds that had to be set up for the sale of the property. So he's feeling that there's going to be more resources next year, but this year they're stuck. So, but beyond that, folks, I mean, we just have to reckon with the fact that the public library has more needs beyond even what I've just described in terms of the electrical wire and so on. There's a heating system that still has its original distribution with a boiler that has been repaired and has been upgraded over time, but is also limping along. There's no air conditioning. There's, there is a desire to actually gain more space by expanding with a vertical lift and modifications to the egress so that you could use that lovely second floor room that some of you may know. So the library trustees are sort of wrestling with a number of issues, but this is a more immediate one that is right in front of them. And I've actually, had reached out to Allison at Town Hall to say, if we were to consider an increase of our bond amount from $350,000 to $500,000. What would be the cost that we should consider? And just for, your understanding, right now, we rounded off, we're looking at $55,000 for $350,000 in that first year bond. If we were to go to $500,000, it would go up to $78,500.
Okay, so a difference of $24,000, is that correct?
Yeah.
So what I'm having trouble understanding is the town can come up with $200,000 cash the day after town meeting that would
The
be
day after.
available July 1st.
Mhm.
But they can't come up, and they think that rosy times are ahead. I don't mean to be facetious.
Right,
Better times are ahead.
right.
But they won't commit to $24,000 in payment next year when the bond, when is the first year that the bond will come due, correct? It won't
That-
come
it
due
could-
this year.
That it could be that we would say we would return. I didn't ask for this, Paul.
Yeah,
You
I
were
understand.
Positing something. You could say to the town, okay, you pay the difference. You could do that.
I mean, I think it sounds reasonable to me.
Well,
Is there a fallacy in my thinking somewhere?
I can just say that the town this particular year is in a difficult financial position, and they've had to work extremely hard just to get a balanced budget. So I do not think they have an extra 24,000 lying around next year. But they do, and as Lynn pointed out, they do anticipate being in a better position in future years.
Isn't there also the capital campaign that the library people want to, couldn't the money come from there? Or is that just from the inside stuff?
well, you've raised a good point, Nancy. They are thinking there has been discussion about a capital campaign. I think it was really thought as a way of actually funding an addition to the public library for children's space. I'm simply in a position right now to say that there's a lot of back and forth about whether that's a good idea or whether we should be doing all that is possible to stay within the building envelope as it is today. And that's why gaining access to that second floor space have any of you been up there other than Austin and I?
Yeah, not recently, but yes.
But you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I've been there. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. So you've all seen it to some degree. It could be a very, very nice room. But you have to be able to provide handicapped access. And the architect, Richard Smith, has looked at what it means to accomplish that with what's called a vertical lift, basically a wheelchair lift. That'd be a lot like the lift that we've got down at the life-saving station. And then there'd be modifications to the staircase on the other side to make it a little safer as a form of egress. The capacity of that room would be limited to less than 49, and maybe limited even more based on the structural capacity. But that's something yet to be determined. All I can say is that the library trustees, with their architect and with the building committee looking on and encouraging them, are looking at various ways to make the library more usable, more friendly, more sustainable.
Well, safer, yeah, absolutely. Take me through this again, because I just don't understand how Tony can say, well, I can cut you a check for $200,000, but I can't see coming up with another $25,000 next year. Why
They
not cut
haven't
it?
been asked, Paul.
let me just be jump. I think I said before, I haven't sort of said to them, oh, would you put in $25,000? I haven't asked that. So, it's possible to ask it.
Well, you could, what I
Austin
was going to
has
say
also-
was,
Austin has also let us know that things are very tight. And I can tell you that the conversation that I had last week with Mark, Tony, and myself was
Yeah.
not easy.
I'm sure it wasn't.
So
I'm sure it wasn't.
I'm not, I honestly, with what I'm looking at on my screen,
Yeah,
I say we have the capacity to do this and to actually lend a shoulder to the wheel here and help the library trustees and
Right.
the library staff really accomplish what they need to do to safeguard that and make that building work. That's what I
Mhm.
think.
yeah.
I am favorably inclined as well, even, if we can figure out a way to make it work and we all agree. I do have a question about the scope of the work, and I only ask this because I went through it personally. The reason I actually just got rid of my knob and I remediated my knob and tube a couple of years ago. But the reason I did that is because I wanted to insulate and I couldn't insulate with the knob and
Right.
tube, right? And because
Yeah.
otherwise the electric worked, it worked, right? If there was no fire hazard, if I didn't want to insulate, it wouldn't have made such a huge difference. But do they have that on their list as well? Do you know?
For insulation, yes, they would like to be able to have more insulation in their attic areas. There are some parts of the building that are just impossible to insulate, quite honestly, because of the configuration. The issue with knob and tube, folks, is yes, the insulation issue that Ellen has just mentioned, but the other is if rodents or other things have gotten at it and frayed the the woven material covering it, it's possible to get shorts and
Start fires.
start fires.
Yeah.
And that's really, I've tried to say to the library trustees, as Ellen just shared, there's plenty of buildings. I've worked on many buildings with knob and tube wiring. I've also worked on many buildings where we said pull it out and
Right.
rewire it, because that's a prudent course of action.
Also, they need to dramatically increase the amperage service, and you can't do that with the system as it is. No electrician will augment a system that is based on knob and tube wiring
Right.
with a larger panel. So you're stuck. It has to come out one way or the other.
Right. That's a very good point, Paul.
Lynn,
Lee,
does
can I
that electricity stuff go through what's considered the envelope?
It would be, if this were to happen, it would be under the kind of the hands of the preservation architect, who would be working with an electrical engineer to, size this service and increase and work out the service upgrade and then the wiring configurations. So it would need to be under under Richard Smith and his engineers, and it would need to go through public procurement.
Thank you.
Lynn,
Yeah.
can I ask Austin a question? Austin, on the fire alarm system, there is a system in there now. So it has to be upgraded.
There is a fire alarm system. I'm not really, I've started digging into the documents they provided with this application, but I have not gotten far enough along in them. So I did have a question about the amount of, for the fire, what I thought was a fire detection system, but Lynn just mentioned it's a fire suppression system, so that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a suppression system. So the new the panel would need to sort of tie into the fire suppression system.
Yeah. So my other question is, Lynn, yeah, so they're thinking about putting a sprinkler system in there. So
Yeah.
that means that they have to upgrade to at least Austin might know, a 3 or 4 inch line coming into the building.
I don't think that big. They may need a
A 2-inch?
separate line. And Lynn actually probably knows better than I do, but
Yeah, they would,
I think
you
even
guys are
1 inch of
right.
it doesn't have to be a massive line coming in. I think even 1 inch, if it's a separate line from what they have, is probably sufficient. But
Well, I know when we did the Valley Road School, we put a 4-inch line in there.
Oh, my gosh.
For that, it was a separate line. So I'm just wondering, what, is that cost included
Well,
on?
I think you've raised a great point. I'm looking at the cost because I've got them out of the 2019 master plan.
Yeah.
I think the costs myself are optimistic, but that's what we're working with. You know, they took those costs and added a 30% upgrade. So
yeah, Lynn, that kind of I was given my understanding of the envelope work. I was really wondering if that $350,000 amount is enough to actually complete that work. Do you feel that's based on the work that's already occurred there and what they've discovered when they've undertaken that work, do you think that's a reasonable estimate to get this work completed?
I think it's a reasonable estimate for the work that has been identified. But could you do more on the building envelope? I think the answer is yes. Is it pressing right now? Not in the same way that, you know, the work on those two gables has been identified. But, you know, and I think this is what the building committee and Tony were wrestling with is, you know, when does this end? The answer is it won't. That building will continue to require, you know, care. And it's a lot of this has been deferred, quite honestly, and that's why we have looked at multiple projects over the last 10 years. I hope that the library trustees will be able to sort of to actually follow through on this concept of a capital campaign. And, you know, one option for that capital campaign is rather than trying to sort of build an addition to what is a quite honestly, a jewel of a building, maybe it's both money to help with the renovations that we just described, but also setting up an endowment. So some of the sort of pressure on the care of the building is actually addressed by a building fund. Those are all things that are being discussed.
Thank you, Lynn.
So what I'd like to sort of put forth is a spreadsheet that would be coming to next week, which would show the option of increasing this from $55,000 rounded off to $78,500. It's an increase of $23,500.
Mm-hmm.
Any further comments or questions?
Will there be any more details forthcoming from the Board of Selectmen or from Tony or from a first read by by the FinCom?
There might be, sure. We
Okay.
haven't taken this on to them.
Okay.
So both of those boards would be involved here.
I see this as a hard sell. And it's gonna have to be a lot of backup explanation like we have to understand what this means to get the town and the FinCom on on the side of more money to the library. Especially in a lean year.
Well, I think what we're doing, Nancy, is taking some of the pressure from the town budget and putting it onto community preservation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Is there, Lynn, is there any difference in the rules and guidelines we have to follow with regard to the various aspects of the scope? So in other words, building envelope, electrical, you know, anything else that has to be done, or is it okay to, or is there no difference? Or if there is a difference, is it okay that it's bundled like that? Like I just, is
Yeah.
everything in scope within our capacity, you know what I mean, to fund?
The answer is yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
infrastructure improvements of this order are considered, eligible costs.
Great, thank you.
Okay, apart from the challenge of explaining this, is the committee inclined towards considering a $500,000 bond for the public library?
I need to do a little more reading from the documents they provided before I commit to that. But
Okay,
I will say they definitely need some work done because areas are currently unusable inside there.
thank you, Austin. Other comments along those lines?
I was just wondering, are there any funds from public organizations when you're in a situation like dangerous to the public, like wiring that's dangerous, that we could get money to help us with fire prevention?
Offhand, I'm not aware of anything like that. I will turn to you, Austin. Do you have any knowledge of funding opportunities that would support help, the knob and tube removal and the fire suppression system?
No, I wish there was funding for that, but not that I'm aware of.
Other comments?
I believe in the work and the building. I just, and I know that everything costs money and I know that they need a lot. I just want to I want to look at the numbers again. I mean, it's
Yep.
just a lot of money to, yeah, I mean, we're not making decisions. I'm favorably inclined, but I say that with hesitancy about bonding and continuing to potentially, hamstring ourselves for the future. That's all.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, anyone else? Because let's look on, because we really do need to look at the whole picture in a way with this in mind. Can we move on to the Pleasant Street Pet Playground for $50,000 worth of playground equipment? Anyone?
Yeah, I think it's great. My kids, my kids grew up playing at that playground and going to the library there. I have a very soft spot in my heart for that playground. And I know that again, just like the other one, they did a great job with the one in Little Nahant, and we love driving by it. And it's delightful. So it's just, I think it's great. These are all great projects. I just say I like them all. I support them all. We just don't have unlimited funds. So that's the part that's making me, hesitant.
Yep. I hear you.
So I already know I support I support all of them, and I definitely support the Pleasant Street Playground.
Okay, good. Thank you, Ellen. Anyone else?
I agree with all of that. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was glad to see that they responded both Tony and his crew all supported the integration of the library and the storytelling circuit as an integral part of the function of that playground, and a way to make it a kind of a unified social experience for kids of many different ages and their caretakers. I hope that stays a vital element.
Okay.
And they also, paid good attention to, the emerging needs of the demographic. So, lots of kids with different kinds of challenges these days that are more recognized, and how to support their development and their integration in social situations is really refreshing. So I liked seeing that too.
Yeah, very good points. Very good points. Well, it sounds like we're favorably inclined. Anyone else?
I guess I have a little trouble, the amount of money they want to spend for the manipulatives. Like we have, musical instruments in the forest playground made out of natural materials that don't cost, thousands of dollars. But I realize it's a different situation, but to spend, they're talking about how those little houses, $10,000 and stuff. It's just really hard to think about that. I know playground equipment is enormously expensive.
I hear you, Nancy.
We're talking about, this beautiful historic building next door, and then, like plastic playhouses in the playground. It just doesn't, it's a little hard for me to see that.
I appreciate what you're saying, actually. Really do.
On the subject of those buildings, my computer's doing crazy things here. I hope it's settling down. I'd like to speak out in favor of non-denominational and non-sectarian themes for the buildings. I really don't think it's appropriate to have a chapel as one of the
100%.
options.
100% agree. I was a little upset with the chapel.
Yes, I
Yeah.
was too.
I agree.
I really felt that was wrong, and it felt exclusionary. And I know
Yeah.
that wasn't the intent, but I felt excluded
Right.
immediately.
Right.
Well, there were two other options.
One
So-
was a manor house.
No, really. Well, one was a Little Red Schoolhouse, Nancy.
Yeah, that was more in keeping with.
Right, right.
I'm going to try to get on again because I seem to have a connection. So bear with me for a second.
Sure. Fingers crossed.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm back.
Good.
Oh,
You have to shut your phone off.
yeah.
There you go.
I just did. Okay, sorry. So I'm glad to be back with you. Well, all right. So sounds like we've got some reservations about the cost, but the ideas of some of this is being well, words were favorable in that direction. Can we say we're favorably inclined, but we'll be revisiting the amount being proposed here? Anyone?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
Okay.
Are we going to compose specific questions or invite people back to fill in the
Not
blanks?
necessarily, no. Not if
Okay.
I'm trying to run this down, Paul, so
You run it down.
I'm gonna run it down.
But so to Paul's point then, I mean, we don't have control. Once we grant the money, we don't have
That's right.
control over what they do. So to Paul's point about the chapel, like I would find that very upsetting if I were bringing my kids,
Right.
to a chapel with a cross on it. I'd be very upset. Or even if it didn't have a cross, you know what I mean? So some house of worship would have made me very upset with my little kids. But so
Mhm.
how do you give that feedback? You can't really ensure that it's followed, right?
I think you could give it, yes.
I
Okay.
think you could give talk to Tony about that,
Yeah.
about having a chapel up there instead of having like a small schoolhouse. I mean, if we voice to Tony saying, we agree on this, but we don't agree on certain buildings like a chapel.
I mean, just to make the point to, you want to be as inclusive as possible, that's all.
Fair enough. I'm going to move this on. So let's go on to the open space. The phase 2 of the Bailey's Hill Ecological Management Plan. $39,345 being matched by $3,000. Any comments on this?
I'm favorably inclined. It is looking really nice over there.
Favorable inclined, and I think it's looking nice, and people are really happy with it when you talk to the people walking through.
Yep. And I think the bonus of having the DPW expand its repertoire and working with outside consultants in a very close and productive way, I think that's a great thing. I think it's really a model. We can't apply it in every circumstance, but whenever we can, we should.
That company will also be doing the work at Lodge Park when that gets further underway.
Okay. All right. Are we favorably inclined?
I am.
Yes, I am. Yep.
Yes, I am.
Ellen? Yeah. Okay. All right. So summarizing, I've actually, on my spreadsheet, added several notes along the way of tonight's discussion. Highlights would be for the life-saving station, encouragement to go ahead with that MPPF grant. No notes for the housing authority. We're favorably inclined. Same thing with the flagpoles. Public library, we really need to revisit that. And if you would be able to take the time to go into the materials that were provided, which included the 2019 master plan and some updates, that would be great for the public library. For the Pleasant Street Playground, I've typed in reservations about the chapel structure that we want to be able to share with, and I realized that I sort of jumped to get moving. Were there other structures in that proposal that you were concerned about that we also wanted to share as
I
a
wasn't-
reservation?
There were some
I can
really
look real
expensive,
quick.
really expensive plastic flowers and things
Yeah.
and instruments that I thought were a lot of money,
Yeah.
and also go kind of along with a plastic tackiness factor next to the historic building,
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm putting that in.
but in a polite way, please.
Well, that's why I say expressed reservations, like we really didn't like it. Well, no, not going to put that. Okay. We've got support for Bailey's Hill. Okay. Paul, can you move down?
Oh, sure.
Oh,
I don't know what's
no.
going on up here, but I'll kind of shake a
Because
stick
in
at it.
15 minutes, I'm going to try to get this to a place here. So you have to go up a little bit further so we can see everything from administration down. So we've got $10,000 for administration. And then as you remember, we actually said we're going to pay back the fiscal year 19 library bond, both the interest and the principal, and get that away. Then we will have the fiscal year 22 bond. And here we're just looking at interest only. For fiscal year 23, we were looking at principal plus interest. We can juggle some of these around various ways. This was one way that Allison suggested we might think about this. And I know that we've said previously, ooh, it doesn't feel good not to pay down principal when we have a chance to pay down principal.
And
But-
you also had some clawback money.
Oh, and I want to go there, Nancy, because I've got, that's a big part of the story here. So thank you. So Paul, you can see on this spreadsheet, I've got two spreadsheets going, but you can see that when I subtotal those grants plus these obligations, I'm at 574,000 and change, okay? And then Paul, if you just scroll down a little bit further, you can see that we have projected funding of $432,000 and change. We have general reserve of 134,000 and change. We have that housing reserve, but we can't really touch that, remember?
Right.
And then we have two other places where we can be looking at things. One is we've got some interest that we'll be seeing coming in, but the big thing would be the clawbacks. Now, I sent out this spreadsheet to you all, which showed what the outstanding amounts were and where I was suggesting that we claw back money. I subsequently have reached out to several of the applicants who were in the clawback category just to get a feel for things. I reached out to the Historical Society. They had a balance from their recent Vital Records project. I reached out to the Housing Production Committee chairman because there was a balance left on that grant. Similar things with open space. There was a balance left on the open space master plan. And then there were a lot of other things that were kind of granular. My subtotal, when I redid it on Monday, came to $119,000. So
That's a lot of money.
there's potentially real money there. And that was, after I heard from Tony, that was leaving the town, the public ways amounts and so on. So I would ask you to take the time to look at that chart so that when we meet again at our next week, we actually say, okay, here's where we as a group agree on the clawbacks. Because what you can see is that adds, on my other spreadsheet, if I added in that $119,000 of clawbacks, I'm at $686,000 of available funding. Over against when I add in that extra library money, I'm at $602,000. So we could actually keep in reserve $80,000, which would be a good thing. But that would also mean, like I said, going into those clawbacks and pulling that money in.
So the
Or-
money that's been allocated has to be spent on what it's allocated specifically for.
Right.
You
It can't be moved.
slide it around.
That's right, Nancy.
Yeah,
That's
because,
absolutely right.
we will come back to you guys again because we have to make another open space plan 7 years after the first one, which will need some funding for the state people to help us.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly right. When we claw back money, it doesn't mean an applicant can't, return with an updated or, slightly expanded grant application. But, if you look back at those clawbacks, some of them go back to almost the beginning of time. Well, no, there's a 2011 balance in that open space or in that public way, public rights of way category. But I want to respect what the Board of Selectmen is trying to do on that. You know, Tony has said, no, please don't pull that back. But we want to encourage people to spend their money. If they're not going to spend their money, we can put it to good use.
And for subsequent grant proposal, we have to state that.
That's right. It really does need to be clear that you have 2 years or whatever amount we really need to put into the application.
So I'm not sure that I have the spreadsheet you talked about. This
It's right in front of you.
is it one of these?
Yes, it's about the first one you opened, the one
Oh,
that
okay.
says pink
CPC.
clawbacks. Yes.
Oh, here. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. All right.
So
All
I,
right.
I sent these got to you on Monday. I had sent them out before, but I
Yes.
modified them.
Oh, you did? Okay, well, this is not the new one. Because I
No,
haven't
that-
updated this in a week. So,
No, that is. No,
No.
I guess not.
no, I don't think so. All right,
Okay.
I will look at your email and I will update my own record so that I can show you next week what you want to talk about.
Right.
Okay,
So if you go to your emails,
okay.
but
I'll
I
find
could
it.
send it again.
All right, if it's easy enough for you, fine.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Good, okay.
Well,
Did you use 2 years as your,
no, I just went back into this, Nancy. I had a great old time going through Allison's spreadsheet. And when you look at it, you'll find it quite easy to do because things that I felt that were outstanding, I've highlighted in pale pink. I have left the other things that people have either asked for or they're somehow in play in the yellow that she had initially identified. So the pale pink is only what I've said, pull back in, which by the way, includes some of the, a little bit on the public library from a previous fiscal year grant, around $30,000. We should pull that back in so we can make that
Right.
$24,000 that's so
Right.
annoying Paul over
Right.
there.
Yeah. Lynn, you know what would be useful, and I hope it's practical. If we go down the line, we got to go a couple of fiscal years ahead in order to get into the repayment schedule for these bonds, since you don't pay anything out in the first year, more or less.
Well,
Would
unless
it-
you borrow on it, I think they would be borrowing on it, Paul.
Okay. Is it possible for us to get a projection of what the implications would be of a particular scheme for funding now, 1 or 2 years down the line, in terms of our commitments to all the bonds as they get reshuffled?
Yeah, I mean, I can send you the bond
I'm not asking you
projections.
to do it. I think that would be something for Allison to do if she possibly could.
If I think about what Allison is doing right now, I'll try to do it. I mean,
Oh,
she's
okay.
she's
All
carrying
right.
this. You've just heard from Austin. This is a difficult year, and they really are trying to sort of make
Right.
this work.
Right.
I think it is the same kind of thing that we've looked at before. I mean, we have these bonds, and most of them are now on the library.
Mhm.
So
I think we looked at that last year.
Yeah.
I can see if I still have it.
yeah, I mean, I can send you the library bond sheets. It's a matter of actually putting together the CPC projection, and I probably would do it based on, the spreadsheet that I have working, quite honestly.
Okay.
But we don't know what other obligations there are out there. I know that during the time during COVID, when I was trying to sort of work through what it meant to look at a $1.9 million, $1.5 million for the Northeastern, for the East Point bond. That's a 30-year bond. So I was very concerned about what that meant in
Yeah.
terms of our overall funding.
Right.
So, yeah. But we can try to sort of put something together, Paul. And what I would probably do is, out of respect for Allison, is do the first pass at it and then ask her to look at it.
Okay. Got it.
Well, folks, once again, I'm standing in an unheated office and it's nearly 8:30. So what do
So
you
as much as
say?
as much as we're enjoying this, I think it's time to wrap it up.
I think so. I think that's what it is. Unless there's anything else that's really pressing that you really need to say it now. Otherwise, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy. All in favor, Ellen,
Hi.
Dave,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
You know, I can't think, chair votes aye, and I can't think of a group that I love spending more time with than this group right here. So thank you so much for all of your efforts, and
But
we'll keep
we're,
at
Thank you,
it.
Lynn.
but we're all in the heat, so it would be better if you were too.
Yeah, that's it. All
Right.
right, everybody. I'll see
Good
you on
night.
Monday. Got to get at this next
Monday,
Monday.
that's right. Monday. Right,
All right.
exactly.
Good
Safe
night.
Okay.
travels
Good night.
Good night,
home.
everybody.
Safe travels home, Lynn.
Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate that.
Ellen, when would be, oh, Ellen's already off. All right, never mind.